I've been dying to get to this issue with Richmond and their recruitment of Jacob Hopper and Tim Taranto. Is it good for the competition is the question this morning. Because it's not that a bottom four team loses two gun midfielders in their prime to a team that's won 3 out of the last 5 premierships. The AFL must be going, our equalisation model is stuff. The salary cap, the draft, the soft cap on coaching spending is all designed, the fixture is all designed to make the competition even, where essentially every team's got a shot to win it once every 18 years. It is not happening, and it is making a mockery of that whole issue that Richmond are going to sign Taranto and Hopper, 25, 24 years of age, from GWS, a team that's won 3 out of the last 5. Kingy, your initial thoughts on this? Because I know you've been strong on free agency and what it will do to the competition.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of free agency, and it forces the pre-agent discussion, which is a year in advance of that player becoming a free agent. You run the risk of losing them for nothing, so you tend to trade or get proactive a year out. So in actual fact, it's drawn a year forward. Look, this is a great move by Richmond to be able to balance their books, balance the salary cap, have players take less through a very successful era. And obviously some of those stars are coming to the end of their days, like Rewalt and Cotchin, are taking less money, so they can afford to have some flexibility in their payments. But how do they get it done with picks?
I don't know. We'll speak to Mitch Cleary about this because the price is set. Treloar left the Giants for 2 first-round draft picks. Dylan Shiel also left for 2 first-round draft picks. Jeremy Cameron left for 3. So that's the price. So the Giants already have pick 3 in the draft. They're going to get 4 more because once Richmond have committed to Hopper and Taranto, they have to get this deal done. There's the pressure now on them to get it done. The price is set at 2 first-round draft picks. The Giants are going to have, not that picks mean much to them really now, they're going to have 3 and they're going to have 4 more first-round draft picks plus perhaps another first-round pick for Tanner Bruin. They're going to be stocked and massive players in the draft, and it'll be up to Richmond to get this done. Mitch Cleary will have a good lens on that. He's going to join us a little bit later on, and we'll discuss a bit more of this in depth and take your calls, 1300 736 736 on the back of it.
So straight away, Cornsey, my mind goes to, okay, we're all guns blazing on this new Tasmanian team. What's going to be different about the Tasmanian team as to the other 2 franchises that have basically become creches for other clubs to pick, to just hand-pick the players they want 2, 3, 4 years after they've been in the system and started to build an AFL body. They've been overpaid to stay, and they still leave.
It's like the Discovery documentaries that you see from time to time. There's the dead wildebeest, and you got all the hyenas, just about 100 of them, just picking at the carcass. That's what it feels like right now in the AFL. The Giants are unhappy about it. They're citing Kohler and the loss of Kohler as a reason to, essentially why they can't pay this. They're saying, well, we didn't get Buddy Franklin, but they still took Kohler off us. He's a man who loves this time of year. He's a final specialist. He's a trade specialist. He's Channel 7's number 1 man. His name is Mitch Cleary. Mitch, good morning.
Good morning, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Were you shocked when you saw the news came through that Jacob Hopper had nominated Richmond on the back of Tim Taranto also nominating Richmond? What was your initial thoughts?
I wouldn't say shocked. I think it's a very targeted approach Richmond has taken this year to restock its midfield. They know that Dusty's getting on. Cotchin's only got 1 year left. Shane Edwards has retired. Lambert's gone as well. So I think shocked was a bit strong, but I did think that Geelong probably had more of a play for Hopper, given they were so into him 2 years ago. He's got family down the Surf Coast, and it just made more sense from my belief. But having the 2 Giants players in the same midfield is a big play from the Tigers, and as you've been discussing all morning, I think it's going to be a big watch to see how it unfolds in trade period. But I think the Tigers can get it done. The interesting part of it is the Hopper is contracted, so they're not going to let him just walk out the door. But it's the unfortunate part of it is that the cycle just continues to roll on for the Giants. Top 10 picks come in, they stay for 2, 4, 5, 6 years, they go out, and then we go through this whole process again. It's happening with Tanner Bruin as well. He was a bit of a later pick, but this whole cycle continues, and it's unfortunate that we're in this situation.
Have you got a thought on how they can get it done? Because the Giants have set their price. They're steadfast in that it's 2 first-round draft picks for both. I think that has been set with the likes of Treloar and also Dylan Shiel in the past. I'm not sure Richmond can cough up 4 first-round draft picks though, Mitch.
They can't. But also, when you're paying players 7-year contracts each, you do need to be moving that sort of draft pick capital. So it is going to be a big watch. I think that the picks they've got this year and the first round pick next year, plus maybe a player like an Ivan Soldo has been linked, although I think they are into Lloyd Meek, the ruckman from Fremantle as well, the Giants. So I think all picks they have at their disposal in the first round. So the picks this year, they've got that extra pick from North Melbourne as well. That's the first pick of the second round at pick 19 now. Plus next year's first rounder, they'll bank on that, the Tigers being later in the teens because of this approach in the midfield. I think that that should be enough. Maybe they can do a little bit of wheeling and dealing with clubs that maybe need academy points, and they can shuffle a couple of later picks up and get another pick in the early 20s or so. Just on the length of tenure, I know you've been strong on it, Kane. Obviously, that is need to be
strong.
it needs to be paid these days, but I'm with you on these ones because they've been injured this year. Hopper's hardly played because of a knee injury. Taranto's back has been a concern. It is a big risk when you're paying players 7 years when they do come in under injury cloud.
Yep.
Mitch, please.
Agree.
I'm a massive fan of your work. If you start agreeing with Cornsey on this length of contract stuff, it's already doing my head in. Isn't it wise for clubs to spread the money over 6-7 years so they can still stay in the hunt for other trade opportunities?
Absolutely, but we did see that with Collingwood and how it can come back to bite you. The Lynch money is going to get serious in the next couple of years at Richmond. They're going to have to start paying players like Shea Bolton. Josh Gibcus isn't going to be cheap in the future. I do understand, and I think the Melbourne approach has worked because Petrarca and Oliver are really consistent long-term players. But just a little query, I do understand you have to pay overs, Kingy, to bring them in, and 7 years is almost the new 4 or 5. I do get that, but just the little queries around the injuries that these guys are carrying in, and who knows how they're going to be performing in 6 or 7 from now. So
in your opinion, and you track trades and salary caps and these things more than any of us, so this is your domain. Is this, in an overarching sense, great for our code? The fact that we can have 2 players from one club, gun midfielders, go to a contender?
No, I don't think it is great, is it? I just think the way that the Giants, and we're trying to build the Giants and the Suns, they're just getting ripped apart like this. I don't think it is good. And as I said earlier, the cycle just continues. We've got Finn Callaghan, who's a number two or three pick at the Giants, who's now 12 months into his stay. Who's to say this doesn't happen again in 2 or 3 years, that a Victorian club's just going to come and rip him out?
So how do you stop it, Mitch? How do you stop it?
Well, you stop it by paying the ludicrous money they did for Canelio and Josh Kelly. I know that they had to do those deals at the time, but the Josh Kelly money that he'll be running around on next year is way over than what he's producing. So that there's that aspect of it. But the Giants will say, and I do agree with them, that they do have to overpay to keep those players. So maybe it's Kohler coming back. I know it's a dirty word and people don't like it, but there needs to be some sort of assistance because this seriously can't keep happening. And in Richmond, well played to them. Go and target these guys. Go and do it. They're well within their rights. But whether it's good for the code, I don't think so.
What's happening at Essendon, Mitch? We know it's been a big week. Ross Lyon is out. Brad Scott reportedly out as well. Leon Cameron's name has been floated.
Yeah, I think he was more likely to stay in Sydney. I think the family, I think his daughter's doing year 11 or 12 next year, Leon. So I think he was more likely to more sort of set his sights on staying in Sydney. But senior coaching gigs don't come up all too often. I wouldn't shock me if he was to be part of the process. And then you go to the next guys. Does Ken Hinkley get a Hail Mary call later in the process? Those sort of things. I think Josh Marnie coming out and clarifying that the experienced, assistant coach being in the mix will open the door for guys like Adam Uze. Ash Hansen coached the VFL flag 6 or 7 years ago. So you could argue, is experienced in that realm, just like a Craig McRae was. So still a bit to play out. They want to get a coach in before trade period. They are leaving their run late, so they're going to have to get the move on at the Bombers.
Give us your top 3 in order. How do they rank? Give us who's likely to get it number 1 and down to number 3.
Oh.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah. I can expect this will come back to bite me in 4 weeks when people share all that.
Just your thoughts. How it sits in the minute.
I'd say Adam Uze 1, just given the link to Jordan Lewis and how close he's been and the fact he's been around a long time. 2, Ken Hinkley. 3, Ash Hansen. just because of his experience and the fact he wanted to stay in Victoria, told the Giants, and I think he would have run pretty deep in the Giants process, wanted to stay in Victoria for that. So that's just my gut feel at the moment.
All right, and your reaction to the big 9-year broadcast deal, you'll be signing a long-term deal at 7 as well, Mitch.
I might need you to come and orchestrate it for me, Kane. Come in and be my manager. Get the deal over the line. No, it's exciting for footy, and just keen to see how it involves and impacts community footy and see how it drip feeds down because, seeing community footy the way it's been through COVID in the last couple of years, hopefully that can this money can help as much as it can help the players earn the wage they deserve at the top end. Community footy get back on its feet because it's everyone's got a community club and can't wait to see how that one unfolds in the future.
Just a ballpark. This is very, very, very early, but I think when our teams drop out of the finals or don't make the finals, we quickly transition to trade period. I keep hearing you say this will be the biggest trade period we've ever had. Can you give us an idea? So last year, roughly how many trades did we have last year, and what are you expecting in terms of number this year?
Well, what was it last year? 25, 26, around that? Probably off the top of my head. I'm thinking 45.
45?
Yeah, 50. Because the players' deal is going to go into overdrive over the next month. Clubs will start, although it might not be signed, clubs will start to get some sort of feeling on what their cap looks like, and they'll be able to bank on that. COVID, they haven't been able to meet players as much as they would have liked. Clubs have been, a little bit wary, just, in shuffling money in the last 2 or 3 years when the cap was cut a little bit. They had to move money around on their existing players. This year's just going to be a free-for-all. So I think, almost double last year, I'd say, Kingy.
Mitch, great stuff. And your number one doorstop target this trade period?
It's a good question.
Luke Jackson.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Buddy
Maybe,
would be the one, wouldn't he?
Buddy's the one. Yeah, Buddy's the one. I might have to reacquaint myself with him at the airport like we did a few
I think
weeks
you
ago.
got to go for a coach, Mitch. You got to go up the tree a little bit. Maybe a Damien Hardwick, just unannounced, because that'll be fiery. That'll be feisty.
Kingy, you should see. You should come down to the Punt Road car park when we try and doorstop Damien Hardwick. Haven't had too much luck in the past, so sometimes you got to pick your target.
Yeah, good luck, because you didn't have any luck with Dusty either. Mitch, outstanding. The number one man at Channel 7 joining us, and he'll be all over it right throughout the trade period. You can see him on the Channel 7 News. There's a bit more we've got to get through with the Richmond issue and what it means for the equalisation model of the competition. So essentially what I'm saying is that it is absolutely broken, and not for the first time that this has come up, where you can have a scenario where two gun midfielders in their prime walk out of a bottom four side and join a team in the 1 year, two at once. Not sure we've seen this happen ever before, and join a team that's won 3 out of the last 5 premierships and also featured in this year's final series. The model's broken, Kingy. Can you mount a case to say that it's not?
Well, I say all credit to the team that's taking the proactive step of trading out what would probably be 3 first-round picks over 2 years in some way, shape or form. Not sure exactly how it falls, but they're not going to come cheap. Hopper's still in contract next year, so to get him this year, you've got to pay overs. And Taranto, you would think would be probably 2 first-rounders in his own right. So I say full credit to the team attracting those players and managing their salary cap. They may have to purge players. They may have had some tough conversations with ageing stars like Cochin and Rewalt and potentially run the risk of losing those guys, offering them contracts that they could refuse. So I say full credit to Richmond or whoever that club is. If Geelong didn't take this same risk on Jeremy Cameron, they would have lost last week. There is no doubt in my mind that he was the sole reason they won that game. He got 1 coach's vote, by the way.
I had that, but that's another topic.
But he had I think he had 12 scoring involvements. He was the difference in terms of them scoring. So these games this weekend, next weekend, and the weekend after that are the reasons why you take these risks.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's no criticism towards Richmond, other than I will be critical of the length of the deal. It's not going to be Damien Hardwick's problem. So Hardwick would be all in saying, just give these guys whatever they want. He's been there 13 years, Damien Hardwick. He's not going to be there in another 7. He's not going to be at Richmond for 20 years. So he can say
flag. He will.
He can go at 20 years. Oh, how many have been there for 20 years? Like Clarkson wouldn't have been 20 years at Hawthorn.
Yeah, but not many have won 3 flags. But I mean, they're going to bounce. Taranto and Hopper in that midfield, they've been smashed at clearance for 5 years and still won 3 flags. So give them another asset. Another asset. Taranto will fit in perfectly as that mid-forward
So
role.
you're not worried about the last 3 years. So Dustin Martin, you got paid in the first 5 years of his deal, and the last 3 perhaps are going to be a write-off. This year's a write-off. Last year was a write-off for Dustin Martin. You might not get much out of him for the last 2 years when you're paying him 2.6 over 2. But the work is done early. So you're not concerned really that Hopper's going to be nearly 33 by the time this deal finishes.
No, I'm not, because I still think the money being smoothed out over such a long period of time still allows you to stay in the trade space. So I'm not as concerned as you. Dusty's Dusty. Dusty will be a better than average AFL player if he plays forward for the last 2 or 3 years of his career. You worry about the money? I don't. I think he's repaid them in spades, and there's a lag effect. They're going to bounce. They are going to bounce. I mean, if they just use their draft picks, right? Everyone says, go back to the draft, go back to the draft. So they use pick 18, effectively, or pick 20 this year. How long before that player, who's a gamble anyway, becomes a serious AFL player?
You may have said the same thing about Fremantle 4 years ago, though. And then they get Brayshaw and they get Sarong and they go to the draft, they get Young and they get Chapman and these players. So you might have said the same thing. Now, it's not going to be instant. This is the point on Hardwick. He's not interested in 4 years' time. He wants now, and he goes, well, in the last 4 years of Jacob Hopper's deal, not really going to affect me, I reckon.
Not his call, though. It's not just his call.
I think he would have had a significant call over it. And you're right, it's a list management call. Blair Hartley knows what he's doing, and I will say that Richmond have a good record in this space. So I absolutely will say that, and Richmond fans will be going, well, hang on, just trust us. We've had pretty good record with Lynch and Prestia and Nankervis and others. So trust us to make the right call again. And I get that. And that would be an opinion that you could mount a case for.
Cornsey.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. If you're a fan of your own football club and they're making these bold, aggressive moves as a ruthless football club, they're going and ripping the heart out of one club. So they're gettable, we're going to go take them. If I'm a Richmond fan today, I'm saying, you know what, we're not sitting back hoping that Sonzi becomes a player next year, hoping that these peripheral midfielders can elevate and take the role of Cotchin. No, we're going to Taranto, bang. In you go. Find another role for Cotchin. If he's not playing the level, he's in the reserves. We got Hopper straight in, bang. If Prestia is not 100% fit, he doesn't play. Rather than having to juggle magnets that are not there regularly.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm more broadly, what does it do for the competition? And does the AFL go, well, this equaliser thing that we want is absolutely stuffed, and which you could easily say that it is. And just a further point to that, so Tanner Bruin's going to leave as well. 2-year contract. This comes up at trade period all the time, but the AFL have to do something about having longer than 2-year contracts for first-round draft picks. We saw Gunston walk out of Adelaide after 2 years. We've seen Haitley do it the same at the Giants. We've now seen Tanner Bruin do it after 2 years. They must have the option to sign players for at least 4 years if you are a first-round draft pick. The Giants are saying, well, we don't even know if Tanner Bruin can play, and we're going to lose him after 2 years. How is that helping with the equalisation model as well? So he's going to go. They've got pick 3 as it stands. They're going to get 4 first-round draft picks from Richmond and perhaps another first-round draft pick for Bruin. They're going to be loaded in the draft, but they've been loaded before. You want to put something on the agenda?
Yeah, I do. I think we should be thanking Richmond and Melbourne and these teams that are playing fast footy over the last few years.
Good to watch.
I haven't heard anyone talking about the stand rule this week.
Bad rule.
I haven't heard anyone talk. You haven't mentioned it this week.
No,
Where's it been? We've had the best finals round of all time. I haven't heard the whinges. What's happened to the whinging?
It's still a bad rule.
The game is at its absolute peak right now, and I think we should be thanking the teams that are playing brave football because it's forced the competition to shift. We're seeing goal kickers. We're seeing high-speed footy. Geelong have had to change the way. If Geelong had won the premiership in 2020, every team would have slowed down their ball movement method. But because these other teams have got on a roll and played aggressive, fast footy, they've forced the slow teams to change. I think it's been a godsend. Our game is in great health. We've got a final series to die for at the moment. It's just been sensational.
We got 4.5.
I haven't heard you whinging this week.
No, I can't. I still go to the games and I go, the rules are forcing one player to be a statue. I can't. Yeah. I still can't cop it. So
I know, that's the negative side.
And then
the
I get
side
someone pinged for a 50-metre penalty because he just inched away on the mark and it cost the team a goal, which could still cost a team a final in the next few weeks. But the footy's been great. $4.5 billion injection into the game.
Yes.
Epic week of finals. So nothing to be negative about with the state of the game at the moment, which we love. You've got something on Derm. Is there some audio we need to
Dermott
play?
made some strong commentary yesterday.
I didn't hear this.
Have a listen to what
Okay.
he said about young Jack Ginnivan.
I thought if I was a teammate, I would have strangled him. I'd have gone over there and I'd been prepared to give away a free kick to teach that boy a lesson.
He was quite savage on Jack Ginnivan, saying that his chicken wing tackle is not his first offence. There was an incident against Bramble, I think it was, in the Hawthorn game back in round 12 where he drove the elbow into a defenceless player's throat. He backed that up with a time code and it was uploaded onto Twitter. So I just wonder where you sat with this. I mean, I know you've done all sorts of things for Jack this year, but are we too hard on Jack, or is he bringing this upon himself now?
Are we being too picky? Would be are we having extra cameras on Ginnivan? Are we so focused on him?
He was lucky there was no camera on him.
So you think he was
no
lucky
camera.
not to get suspended?
100%. Did you see the
Yeah, I saw the screenshots of it, and I heard Patrick Dangerfield's comments, which is fair enough. I think he's got the standing in the game to have that view. But I think we're being a bit harsh on Jack Ginnivan. Like every headline in the lead up to this game is a picture of Jack Ginnivan. I'm like, hang on, this guy's a second game player. We should be showing Pendlebury, or we should be showing the Dacos boys. And I just think we are overly focused on him. And it's not just the footy media now; it's the news media that are shining a light on Jack. And perhaps he's not coping with it. He may need to go back, or may need to lose his play. He's got to play better. And in the end, we're going to judge him on his performances, which haven't been great, I don't think, in the last half of the season.
He's done some good things.
Been okay.
Big moments.
He's been okay. Yeah.
Can you just explain to me why Ken Hinkley is in the Essendon Football Club coaching role or vacancy discussion?
You don't think they should be targeting him, or you don't think it's possible to get him?
Both.
Don't think he's
tell me what the lure of Ken Hinkley is to Essendon. Why do Essendon need Ken Hinkley?
Well, why do Essendon need Ross Lyon?
Well, Ross is he's taken teams to grand finals. He's had the same coaching experiences as Ken. So I'm not choosing between the two, but
I think once you put on the agenda that you want an experienced coach, which is what they did when they sacked Ben Rutten, there's not that many experienced coaches around, and Ken Hinkley's record is pretty good. Like, his win-loss record is great. He took a team from 5 wins in 2012 to finals. He's kick away from a grand final a couple of times, so they've got a good record of rebuilding a young group. There's a number of cases I could mount for Ken Hinkley, but it's too problematic. Like, he's committed to Port Adelaide. He's not going to go through a process right now. He's worrying about who's going to be his assistant coaches next year, not who's going to be at Essendon. So, yeah, I think we can absolutely rule Ken Hinkley's name out of the Essendon job.